Stand by BTR 67 in 10.
You are about to watch an historic event, the first transcontinental broadcast of a Canadian program with 3D images filmed and produced by the CBC. If you received 3D glasses at Canada Post outlets, please do not put them on yet.
Time to put the glasses on again.
A familiar face will let you know when the 3D sequences start and finish.
Take your glasses off.
If you don't have 3D glasses, there's still lots of spectacular rare footage to see. Enjoy.
Tonight, a royal journey that spans more than half a century. It is a story of a grand spectacle that unfolds as a young woman is crowned Queen of England. It is also the tale of a remarkable discovery, a long-lost film that captures in 3D the pomp and pageantry of the last great coronation. And the amazing story of the transatlantic race to share the celebration with Canadians. Elizabeth II, from her coronation to her many visits to the place she likes to call home, Canada. Queen Elizabeth as you've never seen her before. Princess Elizabeth was traveling through Kenya when she received the life-changing news. Her father, King George VI, had died. In that instant, the 25-year-old mother of two young children became Queen of England. Just a few short years earlier, on her 21st birthday, the young princess, knowing full well that this day would come, made a pledge to her people.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
Very little was known about her. There were no gossip magazines then. Nothing was written about the personal lives of the monarchy. And all that they knew of her was that she was the beautiful eldest daughter of King George VI and was next in line to the throne.
By 1953, Britain is still dead poor. They're still rationing. And Queen's coronation was a huge, important morale booster for the British people. And I think that's one of the reasons it was so fervently embraced.
By June 1953, everything was in place. The world witnessed the greatest royal spectacle in British history. Millions watched in grainy black and white as Queen Elizabeth's coronation was brought to Britain's living rooms by the magic of television. But the TV cameras were not alone. Amidst the pomp and the pageantry, two pioneers of the cinema, Bob Angel and Arthur Wooster, were experimenting with a revolutionary new technology.
Amazing.
For half a century, the results of their experiment were buried in these film canisters. To find any unseen film archive of the Queen's coronation would be an amazing discovery. To find color footage would be even more extraordinary. So when the researchers opened these cans, they were astonished to find footage of the Queen from 1953 in color and in 3D. It was one of the film finds of the century. Now, please turn down the lights. Place yourself as directly in front of the TV as you can. That's the sweet spot. And you may want to move a little closer. Remember, every time you see someone putting on the 3D glasses, you do the same. At the end of the sequence, you'll see someone taking the glasses off. Just follow along.
Please put your 3D glasses on now.
As the months gave way to weeks and then to days, all thoughts and hearts were centered on that palace from whence a golden coach would soon set out upon a journey gay and live with color, yet fraught in all its inner meaning with a solemn wonder.
As you watch 3D, just let your eye wander around the screen and enjoy the spectacle. How you experience 3D varies from person to person and from scene to scene. Right now, you should be seeing a layered image. The footman in the foreground, the carriage in the midground, and the palace gates in the background. Watch for the chap on the pole. You'll see him in a few seconds. He really pops out.
No mere drops of water could quench the warmth deep in the blood, kindled through centuries, now breathed into fresh fire by the spirit of this day.
There is a lot more 3D to come, plus some amazing rare color film.
Please take off your 3D glasses now.
3 million people lined the procession route. Most here from the early hours, many camped out all night to stake the perfect spot. They all knew they were about to witness history in the making. Canada was well represented. Prime Minister Louis Saint Laurent and the Premier of Saskatchewan, Tommy Douglas, were there. So too was the chief of the Squamish Nation, Joe Mathias. Tonga's Queen Salote was a firm favorite with the crowd. In fact, there were so many heads of state in the procession that there were not enough footmen to escort the carriages. Wealthy businessmen and landowners volunteered to dress up and play the part.
Elizabeth's coronation captivated not only a nation, but the world in a way that no event prior to it had, and almost no event since has, in terms of how proportionate the scale was to the media that they had at their disposal.
Almost 30,000 servicemen and women from the Commonwealth marched in the grand procession. Leading the Canadian contingent, proud members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. One Mountie who was thrilled to be there was Corporal Harry Armstrong. That's him in the front row, third from the left. All the Mounties were aware of the special affection the crowd had for them.
You came around the corner and just passing the crowds that were on the street. There was that cheer. Mounties.
Even the Air Force boys at the back of the Canadian pack could sense it.
You marched down that route, and the crowd saw those scarlet uniforms on the mounted RCMP, like the crowd went crazy. Utterly unbelievable.
For those who couldn't make the journey to London, the next best thing was the BBC's live television coverage. Canadian Carol Wagstaff, who lived in England, was just a little girl at the time.
TV was a great big black box with a very grainy picture. Really, you couldn't see a lot. But I always remember when they put the crown on her head, and it was just like a fairy tale coming true.
We were a large group of people packed into a very small room looking at a small black and white grainy TV. But we were all so taken up with the pageantry and the emotion and the dedication of the young queen.
Sales of TVs had skyrocketed in anticipation of this once-in-a-lifetime event.
This is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
CBC Television, which had just started broadcasting the year before, wanted to make sure Canadians saw the coronation the same day as it happened. So the CBC's production team came up with a daring plan to race across the Atlantic with the fresh film.
It means that Her Majesty's subjects in Canada will be able to see in their own homes on the very day of the coronation the actual ceremony which has taken place in London. Carry on.
The plan was concocted with military precision and given a cool name, Operation Pony Express. The American networks were doing the same thing, so there was competition to see who got to air first.
Today, we take it for granted that there is a news crew in every possible location around the world, ready to cover any event that happens and transmit it back to us live. But picture yourself back in the 1950s, when none of that was possible. The story of the century is happening, the coronation, and every network is desperate to cover it, including the CBC, of course.
The great race began at Alexandra Palace, the BBC's transmission center. CBC actually filmed the BBC broadcast right off the television monitors. It was processed on the spot, then rushed to a nearby cricket field where it was put on a Fighter Command helicopter. 9 minutes later, it arrived at London Airport, where it was transferred to an RAF plane. But no ordinary plane. The newly arrived Canberra jet could fly higher and further than any other bomber. So rather than wait for the day's celebrations to end, the plan was to have 3 separate flights and get a jump start on the Canadian broadcast. Flight Lieutenant S.P. Gullis, a Canadian, flew one of the fighter jets over the Atlantic.
All I had on was 22 hours on the aircraft when I flew the coronation film, which is not very much when you consider all the new things that were introduced. For example, high-level flying at 48,000 feet. It was all very exciting.
The first Canberra landed safely at Goose Bay, Newfoundland.
Standing with me at the moment is Squadron Leader Kenyon, who flew the Canberra and, of course, the TV film over to Canada, and Flight Lieutenant Bill Etienne, who will continue with Operation Pony Express. And now, if you will give him the film, Squadron Leader. Squadron Leader Kenyon, I'll get these films off to Montreal right away. Thank you. Have a good trip. Thank you, sir.
A Canadian fighter jet ferried the film to an airfield just outside Montreal. From there, it was loaded aboard a helicopter and flown to the CBC headquarters.
The CBC did, in fact, beat the Americans to air. But, of course, being good Canadians, we shared our footage with them. And it went to air at 4:15 Eastern Standard Time, this historic footage. This mad relay across the ocean, this extraordinary race resulted in millions and millions of Canadians and Americans seeing the coronation on the very day that it happened, which was just an amazing feat at that time.
The coronation had a special meaning for Canadians.
The title Queen of Canada was adopted by the Queen on May the 29th. She proclaimed it just before Coronation Day. So she was the first monarch to officially take that title.
Because the Queen was being crowned Queen of Canada, it was a great way to reconcile this shift, moving from a British country to a new country, a new country with a more nationalist feel to it.
In fact, the Queen herself paid homage to Canada. Embroidered into her dress were not only the emblems of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, but there was also a maple leaf for Canada.
I'll just take the mag out.
Unfortunately, filmmakers Bob Angel and Arthur Wooster could not film inside the Abbey. Because their 3D camera required shooting through a mirror, there was not enough light. However, they did secure 2 great positions along the procession route.
Hey, it's time to put your 3D glasses on. That's okay. You look cool. Enjoy the show.
Despite the rain, Bob and Arthur were content with the day's filming. However, they were still missing one shot, the shot they really wanted, a nice, clear close-up of the new Queen. The pioneer filmmakers had a little more time to accomplish their mission. As part of the coronation celebrations, the Queen wanted to travel the country to meet her subjects. First stop, the most important event in British racing, the Epsom Derby.
The coronation and the Derby, all in 1 week.
It's called the People's Race, and you can see why. The crowd is 500,000 strong. Her Majesty has a special interest in this race. One of her horses, Oriole, is a favorite to win. Although Oriole makes a last-minute dash for the winning post, the race is won by England's best jockey, Gordon Richards.
When they were introduced to the Queen afterwards, she said, "Congratulations on winning the Derby." And Gordon said to her, "No, ma'am, congratulations on winning the world." And there's no doubt she had.
From Epsom, the royal tour journeyed north to Scotland.
Edinburgh in its time has honoured many sovereigns since that distant day in the 7th century when it took its name from Edwin, the Northumbrian king. Now the Scottish capital, and every Scotsman, was ready in its finery to receive another.
Bob and Arthur still haven't got that special shot, and they're running out of time. The Queen is back in London to visit the Lord Mayor. They get a position at the front of the crowd. Close, but they want to get even closer. Bob and Arthur set up their camera on the banks of the Thames. This is their last chance.
Arthur and I were alone on that particular day. For some strange reason, we were allocated a position on Tower Pier when the Queen was coming up the Thames in the royal barge, and we were the only camera there. The Queen stepped ashore and she came right up to the camera, very close, and I think we succeeded in getting a very good shot of the Queen in close-up and 3D with these marvellous fellows in their great uniform. She saw that we were there, but being the consummate professional that she is, she'd never looked at the camera, but she did just spy us there and played to the camera.
The young Queen Elizabeth was a hugely inspirational figure. The statement that the Queen is making in the outfit that she wears at Tower Pier is a promise for the future. You have to remember that during the war years, all the extravagance in cut had been taken away. What you can see the Queen wearing is great big full skirts that can swoosh around as she walks. This is about being gorgeous. This is about being extravagant.
I think we were so excited by the shot itself, which, again, by chance, I suppose you can say, lent itself very well to 3D, with the Thames in the background and the barge men in the foreground lined up, that I really don't remember anything other than being excited by the whole setup.
Coming up, Queen Elizabeth has traveled to Canada more than any other country in the Commonwealth. It's a place she likes to call home. And we are going to England. You are cordially invited to an exclusive, once-in-a-lifetime social event, a royal garden party at the palace. You might want to get dressed up for this.
Please remove your 3D glasses now. But there's a lot more 3D to come, plus some rare, amazing color footage.
We will have more 3D footage of Queen Elizabeth in just a few minutes. But first, we're going to journey back to a time when the Queen was a princess. Perhaps one reason Canadians were so fascinated by the coronation was that Elizabeth had recently toured Canada for the first time. The year was 1951, and Canada was a completely different place.
Canada in the early 50s was booming economically. We had all the sort of pent-up fertility and all the pent-up desire for prosperity that had been, dampened and suppressed during the Depression and during the war, and it was finally bursting out.
In terms of the princess's visit, this is a period where Canada is still very much thinking of itself as a British country. Canada only got its citizenship as a distinct citizenship from British citizenship in 1947. So this identity of Canada as very much being a part of the British world, of being part of the Commonwealth, was very instilled in Canadians. So there would have been a lot of excitement at the arrival of the princess when she came.
The reason that thousands upon thousands of Canadians flocked to see the Queen in 1951 was simply that this was before the advent of live television. So if you wanted to see a world-famous personage, you had to actually physically go out and find them and be in their presence. And here was this young, glamorous princess, beautifully dressed. She'd been on the cover of Life magazine in 1947. She was like Elizabeth Taylor. She was like a Hollywood star.
Her Majesty's 1951 tour took her all across the country. A 10-minute stop in Salmon Arm, BC, where it looks like the entire town showed up to see the royal couple. A sleigh ride in Saint-Agathe, Quebec. Niagara Falls, of course. And a gala night at the Winnipeg Ballet. She must have been impressed, because not long after, she granted the company royal status. Today, it is internationally recognized as the Royal Winnipeg Ballet. After her coronation, Queen Elizabeth came back time and time again.
Pray be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir. Honourable members of the Senate, members of the House of Commons, I greet you as your Queen.
has a universal and unique appeal. On the one hand, we see her in her finery, in her robes and her priceless crown jewels. And then the next week, we see her in her raincoat, smiling and shaking somebody's hand. I think that is her appeal. She is this untouchable icon, and yet she is immensely accessible.
At Buckingham Palace, Her Majesty is all set to make yet another trip to Canada. But first, there's a royal garden party to host. This is one of the most sought-after invitations on the English social calendar. After considerable correspondence between the CBC and the Palace, our 3D camera crew was granted permission to film this exclusive event. The mission, like that of the coronation crew, is to capture a nice, clear close-up of Her Majesty in 3D. The first challenge is getting the gear in. The 3D rig, which comprises not one but 2 cameras, is a handful to say the least.
It's time, everybody. Put your 3D glasses on.
Getting invited to a royal garden party can be the thrill of a lifetime, but for some, it's a little daunting.
To receive an invitation to the garden party, it's a double-edged sword. It's a dream come true, and yet, you know, we've heard from many people that they are incredibly nervous. They're hoping the Queen will come over to them, but then they're at the same time dreading it, because what do you say to the Queen without putting your foot in it and not adhering to the correct protocol?
As soon as she arrives, all eyes are on the Queen.
If the Queen talks to you, it is not a mere formality. She's interested, and she will engage you in an actual conversation. And I think people are sometimes very unprepared for that. They're not expecting such interaction with such a regal personage.
Among the special guests, a young Canadian couple.
Seeing Her Majesty was, I guess, an opportunity for us today. It was nice to be so close to her. We were standing maybe, 4 or 5 feet from her. See her speaking with people and seem so interested in talking to people. We didn't actually think she would spend so much time talking to each individual that she talked to.
We got picked out of the crowd to go talk with Prince Philip. And it's just, you know, a handshake and how are you guys and what are you doing here and stuff. So it's really, really nice. Nice and relaxed.
When the royal couple leaves, it's time for tea and dainties and people watching. It's all very civilized.
Please, everybody, it's time to take your glasses off.
When we come back, more 3D footage of Her Majesty's recent Canadian visit. And we'll have a look back at classic 3D. But be warned, some of it is very, very frightening. The story of 3D and royalty didn't just begin with the 1953 coronation of Queen Elizabeth II.
So try that.
All right, let's check it out. It's as close as possible.
Well, hold that right up to your forehead.
Elizabeth's great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, was a huge fan and collector of stereoscopic photographs. In fact, every monarch since Victoria has had a coronation photograph created in 3D. So the notion of Queen Elizabeth being filmed in 3D really just continues the tradition. Of course, the timing was perfect. The 3D phenomenon was exploding.
I'm sure you'd all like to know something about the new entertainment miracle, Third Dimension.
Especially in Hollywood. 2D trailers promised 3D wonders.
Well, he says he thinks I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Pictures that popped right off the screen. Bad guys were always throwing things at you. Flaming torches, furniture. Basically, if it wasn't nailed down, it was thrown at the screen. And then there were the monsters. Latex blobs like the creature from the Black Lagoon. Guaranteed to have your date leaping into your arms. And truth be told, that was the best part of the movie experience. But Hollywood studios weren't the only ones producing 3D films. In England, several pioneers were playing with the new format.
Another big moment coming up. Are you ready for the 3D experience? Time to put the glasses on again. Here we go.
This film takes 3D to the outer limits.
How do you do? I've come along to talk to you about the theories of a stereoscopical transmission. Watch carefully now as I move forward. There, did you notice? Do you notice I actually do move forward from there to here? In an ordinary film, I'd only appear to move forward. Here's another little model I've made, based on a new branch of a theory of mine. I call it based on the pendulum. In this film, you may see a number of birds. Now, you can imagine that this is a cockatoo sitting on a perch and swinging out over your heads. Oh, the bird's flown.
Industrial films were also popular with 3D pioneers. How to make open pit strip mining look cool? Shoot it in 3D. Of course, you have to have a little culture. This is the earliest known 3D sports film, and it proves one thing: a moving ball makes for good 3D. And here's proof that Mr. Posh wasn't the first one to bend it like Beckham. Now that deserves a slow-mo replay.
Tommy Harmer of Tottenham Hotspur demonstrating how he can swing this kick from the goal line.
Queen Elizabeth II has visited Canada more than any other country in the Commonwealth. It's a place she likes to call home. On her recent visit this summer, we were there to capture the festivities in 3D.
All right, time to take the glasses off. Back to normal. Whew.
Queen Elizabeth II has visited Canada more than any other country. The latest royal tour, the summer of 2010. She started her visit in Halifax.
As Queen of Canada for nearly 6 decades, my pride in this country remains undimmed. Thank you again for your welcome. It is very good to be home.
The primary reason for Her Majesty coming to Halifax was to celebrate the centennial of the Canadian Navy. And we wanted to be there to capture in 3D Her Majesty's review of the fleet. However, the space allocated for media on board HMCS St. John's was tight, to say the least. Certainly no room for a 3D rig and a 4-man crew. We had to find a rig that was small and portable.
Balance, ready to go.
Yep. The people at 3D Camera Company were up for the challenge. 2 tiny HD cameras attached to a monopod. Connect your monitor and put the recorder and batteries in a backpack, and there you have it. A one-man 3D band.
Please put on your 3D glasses now.
The motto of the Canadian Navy is Ready, I Ready. And they were more than ready to welcome Her Majesty back to Halifax. In fact, our men and women in uniform were joined by over 5,000 sailors from Europe, South America, and the United States. Of course, Her Majesty has a special regard for the Navy.
The Royal Navy is very dear to Queen Elizabeth's heart. Not only did her father serve in the Navy, but her husband, Prince Philip, was an 18-year-old naval cadet when he and Elizabeth had their first meaningful encounter. It was, as they say, love at first sight. And of course, 2 of her own sons, Charles and Andrew, both had careers in the Navy. Andrew, in particular, loved the Navy. He served for 22 years.
More than 100,000 people gathered on Parliament Hill for Canada Day festivities. And Her Majesty joined them in celebrating our 143rd birthday.
Please remove your 3D glasses now.
For security reasons, royal itineraries are kept under wraps until the last possible moment. However, there was no surprise when it was revealed that Queen Elizabeth would be coming to Woodbine Racetrack. The main event today? The running of the Queen's Plate. It is the oldest thoroughbred horse race in North America. It all started with Elizabeth's great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. She donated the original prize, 50 guineas. The Queen's Plate has been a royal favorite ever since. Queen Elizabeth's father, George VI, came here in 1939.
Moving around the far turn is now...
20 years later, Her Majesty and Prince Philip came for the 100th running of this classic.
More than 20 years I've worked for CBC News, and I never thought I would say this on camera. It's time to put your 3D glasses on.
All of the royal family love horses. But the Queen's love of horses goes even deeper than that. The Queen is not only a horse lover, but she is one of the country's leading authorities on horse racing and horse breeding. Many people come to her for her expertise, and she actually sends some of her prize-winning stallions to Kentucky for breeding. Prince Philip also shares her passion for horses. Even though they're both well into their 80s, they both go horse riding all the time. Her affection for all things equestrian goes back to her beloved grandfather, George V, who gave her a Shetland pony when she was very young.
They're off in the Queen's Plate. Big Red Mike Hotep showing early speed. Ghost Fleet comes on as a clutch of runners move in front of us for the first time. Big Red Mike trying to hold on for one more 16th. Big Red Mike has scored a smashing victory to win the Queen's Plate. Hotep was second.
For the winning owners, and there are lots of them, this is a moment they'll never forget. As well as winning the most prestigious prize in Canadian horse racing, they get to meet Her Majesty close up.
Please take your 3D glasses off.
When we come back, Her Majesty goes to see a movie. A 3D movie. And we'll take you back one more time to witness the magic and splendor of the coronation in 3D. On her recent trip to Canada, Queen Elizabeth visited Pinewood Film Studios to see a movie being made. A 3D movie.
Recording. And turn over, please.
It was an historical drama, Bollywood style. Her Majesty then screened the filmed sequence in 3D. And that's our cue to go back one more time to that magical day when the world held its collective breath and, for a fleeting moment, believed that fairy tales can come true. Queen Elizabeth in 3D.
All right, please put your 3D glasses on now.